What's been notable for you in this past 18 months? You know, and it could include someone like Michael Saylor now with, I think, $7 billion of Bitcoin on a publicly traded balance sheet, which is, again, mind boggling. And you've talking to a lot of people. Jordan Peterson, he was right here in my studio actually talking about ayahuasca with me before I went down to Costa Rica to see Dennis McKenna. And he said, Brian, look out. He said it's got tremendous potential, but it's also very scary. You had a conversation with Jordan about Bitcoin. What are you seeing from some of those big thinkers, and does it surprise you what they're saying or not?
Well, I'll say this, because part of the Bitcoin rabbit hole is you get into this whole history of statism that we've covered, right? And how corrupt and awful it's been. And as someone that has kind of been beating this drum for years now, it's like, guys, the state model doesn't work. It fails, and it's not good for humanity. I have still been kind of just dumbfounded how fast all this has changed post March 2020, right? Like I was saying to you offline before, that I was in Los Angeles before. It was a great and free place, an enjoyable place to live. And then all of a sudden it's like communist state of California overnight. So the quickness with which things have changed culturally and governmentally has been astounding to me, even as someone that's seen it coming, quote unquote, right? So I do think that COVID is the inflection point into the digital age, the point of absolute acceleration. You see guys like Michael Saylor, who, he's sitting on $500 million, not really thinking about it too much. Then all of a sudden COVID hits, central banks are, expanding supplies like mad. And he's pushed into thinking about it, right? Like, what am I going to do with all this money? I've got to store it somewhere. And that gets him into the Bitcoin rabbit hole. So I wonder, and he's just a tremendous mind. I mean, you talk to him, he's just unbelievable. I wonder how many more guys like that are coming, because they have to be, there are a lot of rich guys and girls out there, and they're going to wake up to this. I sent this out recently that here's a very simplified view of Bitcoin. Productivity creates wealth. Taxation reduces productivity. If you're getting robbed, you have less stuff than you would otherwise. Inflation is taxation. Bitcoin is the only money in human history with a 0% terminal inflation rate. So if you are a human and you prefer abundance to poverty, then at some point you will be buying Bitcoin. That is my position and belief. And that's why I think Bitcoin does globalize. And then with Peterson, he is a bit of an idol of mine. I think he's one of the greatest living thinkers and philosophers in the world. And actually digging into his work, specifically his book, Maps of Meaning, he wrote a lot about alchemy, Carl Jung, which I think got mostly from Carl Jung, but the aim of alchemy, we joke, we think that, they wanted to turn lead to gold, those morons, right? But it's a lot more sophisticated than that. And alchemy was something that was practiced all over the world for thousands of years. And, we alluded to this earlier, where there's this mutuality between creator and created, that the alchemists actually thought they had to purify themselves morally to invent things that were useful. So there was this reciprocity between man and creation. And alchemy was kind of like proto-science in a way. It forked away from the church and became what would later become the scientific method. It's the ultimate rabbit hole, so I won't go into it too deeply, but the aim of alchemy was to produce the lapis philosophorum, which was the philosopher's stone. And one of the lines in Peterson's book described it as the substance, the incorruptible substance that would serve as an antidote to tyranny in the world. And so I find it profoundly interesting that we have finally developed an incorruptible substance with an incorruptible fixed supply of 21 million. And its great promise and use case is the separation of money and state and the destruction of the economic tyranny inflicted by central banking. And it's disruptive to gold, right? It's like we thought that we were trying to make gold out of lead, but it was actually the lapis philosophorum was the process. It wasn't the thing, it was the process. And that's all Bitcoin is. It's just a process.